Yes, it took a few months, but Oregon finally has a schedule for when everyone is going to get the vaccine. Yay! You know, I wouldn't get too excited because a lot of people eligible now can't seem to find an appointment, or they have to pay hundreds of dollars to take a taxi to a clinic because they can't get a shot at their adult care home.
Should it be this difficult?
Not really. Like, for us especially, we're serving very vulnerable part of the society.
It's obvious Portland has a homeless crisis. You can see it with your own eyes just walking down the street. But it might surprise you that a small touristy town on the coast has a more hidden housing problem.
That trend of people moving here just really putting a crunch on the housing supply and also driving costs up substantially.
And they're trying to do something about it. Here's the story. All right, okay, thank you for being with us. I am Dan Haggerty. This is The Story. All the ways to get a hold of us at the bottom of your screen. Keep using that hashtag #HeyDan. Now, I'm sure you heard by now, the Oregon Health Authority finally told us when everyone is going to be able to get vaccinated here in this state. Now, up until now, they hadn't really released any type of formal, full schedule, even though Washington did have one out a while ago. So I hope this is going to act as something that releases some tension for people. It give us a little bit of certainty as we move forward, a little less uncertainty. Now, usually we try not to regurgitate the news of the day on this show, but this is very important stuff, literally life-changing news for a lot of people, because it gives us a much clearer picture of when things might get back to normal. So I thought we'd do things a little bit more traditionally. If you guys want to bring in the desk, we'll bring a desk in. We have one of our directors, Lindsay. I'll put the mask on as you come in. Just bring that desk in. Thank you. What's that? A news desk. Fine. Which camera are we on? 3? Okay. Anyhow, so here are the details, and this is what you need to know. Here it is. Starting March 29th, people ages 45 to 64 with underlying health conditions can get the vaccine. So can food and seasonal farm workers, those living in low-income, congregate, or independent senior housing, them too. People who are homeless can get the vaccine, wildfire victims, and wildland firefighters. The next group is eligible on May 1st. Now, that includes frontline workers as defined by the CDC. That list is way too long to get into right now, but it's people who work in grocery stores, public transit, public safety, etc. People who have close contact with people outside of their home. We have a full list for you of eligible frontline workers up right now at kgw.com. This group also includes people living in multi-generational households and everyone ages 16 to 44 with underlying health conditions. All right, then starting June 1st, everyone else ages 45 to 64 can get the vaccine. And on July 1st, that expands to everyone 16 and older. So there you go. You now know when you should get the vaccine. And the key word there is should. Because as we have been telling you, a lot of people who are eligible to get the vaccine right now still haven't been able to get their shots. And that includes those who were supposed to be at the very front of the line, people living in adult foster homes. Kristen Severance has been trying to help them get vaccinated for weeks now. And tonight, she continues her look at the lengths people are going to just to get the shot.
I am here to say hi to my mom, Viola.
Marilyn Wasson and Michael Coney
She lives here.
are visiting Marilyn's 87-year-old mother at her adult foster home in Beaverton.
Hi! These are some of my mom's caretakers.
They've been doing these outside visits for a year now.
Hello.
This is the first time they're seeing Viola after she got the COVID shot at the OHSU drive-through vaccination site last weekend.
But you survived.
I survived.
You did well. You're a trooper, Mom. You're a trooper.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Something they thought might not happen.
You have to feel like maybe this population's been a little bit forgotten, because there doesn't seem to be any systems that are really focusing on their needs.
It's been really tough.
The only reason Viola, the other residents, and caretakers at the home got vaccinated is because of Masai Keltu. The man who runs the home was on several devices trying to get the appointments.
So I have to be really fast typing and picking all the moments that are available there.
And you got it?
And I got for all of them. I got it for all my residents and all my caregivers.
Then he had to get them all there. The transportation van he bought last March broke down. He paid more than $300 for a taxi to take Viola and a caretaker through the airport line.
Should it be this hard? Should you have to be on your computer and your phone and having to call a cab? I mean, should it be this difficult?
Not really. Not really. Like, for us especially, we're serving very vulnerable part of the society, but I don't know why that it makes it so complicated for us.
Most of the adult foster care homes in Oregon have not been vaccinated, even though they've been eligible since December. According to the Oregon Health Authority, 400 out of the 1,400 adult foster care homes have received the shot. Many of these residents are bedbound and can't leave the home. The Oregon Department of Human Services is working on getting all the residents the shot, but it's taking a while. Last week, state officials blamed the CDC's federal pharmacy program for the delay. Today, Governor Kate Brown and Oregon Health Authority officials said local public health agencies are now helping with the process.
I know that local public health has been a really important partner here. And I know, for example, in Multnomah County, they've had really proactive efforts to reach out to these seniors, including having a mobile van visit these homes directly.
State officials have promised again to get all these vulnerable Oregonians the shot.
Yeah, I got vaccinated.
Viola's family is relieved and grateful. They don't have to take the state's word for it.
Well, we're looking forward to the day when we're all vaccinated and we can all be together again.
I love you.
It's so good to see you today, Mom. We love you.
I'm Kristen Severance,
You deserve the best.
KGW News.
Now, for weeks, I've been getting emails like this one we got from Robert. Robert said, still confused about signing up an elderly friend for the vaccine. I can sign up for Netflix in about 30 seconds. Is the state lacking IT expertise in setting up this kind of project? So yeah, basically everyone agrees here. Oregon's vaccine sign-up website isn't the best. It hasn't been going great, mostly because of hundreds of thousands of people trying to get appointments at the same exact time and the site crashing. Well, the state hears you. Here's your frustrations. So on Monday, they're trying something new for the metro area, kind of a don't call them, they'll call you situation, or rather don't sign up for an appointment anymore. If you are a senior or someone else who is eligible for the vaccine right now, the state will contact you when there is an appointment available. But first, you need to enter your info into another website. Yeah, I get that. I know, frustrating, but here's the deal. The site is called getvaccinated.oregon.gov. Getvaccinated.oregon.gov. You fill out the eligibility questionnaire, you enter your contact information, that sort of stuff. Then the state will reach out to you when there's an appointment that you can have. But keep in mind, you still might not get an appointment right away because there are only so many doses available. So be patient. I know it's been tough. That's a whole lot easier said than done. Okay, time for our daily check-in. Let's talk about doses, how many people have been getting the shot. As of this afternoon, more than 588,000 people in the state of Oregon have gotten at least their first dose. More than half of them have gotten their second dose, but this puts us at just under 14% of the state's population with that first shot. As far as Washington is concerned, they do their updates for the vaccine numbers 3 times a week. So this is as of yesterday. More than 973,000 have gotten at least their first dose. That works out to be about 13% of the state's population. Now, Sunday marks 1 year since the first COVID case in Oregon. So I asked people on Facebook, do you remember where you were at that time? That was such big news. I remember hearing that. It was kind of a different world we were living in. Now we are in the current world. But leave me a comment on my post if you're interested in sharing something you might remember from that time. So far, we've gotten some really interesting stuff on there. So if you just want to go and read through, I invite you to do that as well. Now, I'd like to talk about solutions. This last year has been, let's call it rough. And we've heard from a lot of you who want us to focus more on what is working in our community. And we hear you. And tonight, we're focusing on a solution brewing in Astoria. You see what I did there? Because they love beer. They also love Bridges, right? They love the Goonies and Arnold Schwarzenegger teaching little kids, it's not a tumor. It's not a tumor, all right? That's the That's the full quote. Most people don't do that, but I'm kind of an Arnold purist. But I digress. See, it turns out Astoria also has a growing housing shortage, and city officials told our Maggie Vespa they're exploring every option to fix it, and fast.
Oregon's coastline has a lot to brag about. In Astoria, you've got the views, the brews, and the Goonies house, which draws swarms of nostalgic millennials every year. But hey, no city is perfect.
We're susceptible to all the national trends.
And Astoria has got its problems. Just ask Mayor Bruce Jones and City Manager Brett Estes.
I was just reading an article in the New York Times this morning about the nationwide shortage of available housing stock. And everything that was in that article applies to Astoria.
We have our ongoing need for workforce housing.
The cause of that shortage, they say, is simple. Astoria has boomed in popularity these last few years. And we're not just talking tourism. More and more people are moving there, especially those working remotely amid the pandemic. And it's creating the same problem that exists in a lot of West Coast cities. Housing stock is running low, prices are going up. And while it's tough to quantify, they say a growing number of people who work in Astoria, especially in the service industry, can't afford to live there.
We do hear from employers fairly frequently that they had someone come in for an interview and they wanted to hire this person and the person just couldn't find something they could live with. We hear from Coast Guard people all the time.
So officials have a plan. As the Daily Astorian first reported, the City Council is weighing rezoning parts of Astoria to build affordable and higher density housing. They say there are empty lots throughout the city. Some could house multi-story buildings, others smaller duplexes. Nothing is set in stone, but it's music to Alan Evans's ears.
We need to grow with the times and we need to grow with the need.
Evans is the CEO of Helping Hands, a nonprofit based in Astoria. He's watched for years as the area's homeless population has grown. KGW has covered the issue on the city's streets and in its forests before. In fact, according to the last statewide count, Clatsop County has the highest rate of homeless people per capita of any county in Oregon. Nearly 23 people experiencing homelessness per 1,000 residents. Multnomah County has close to 5 people per 1,000 residents. Marion County has less than 3. And Astoria's feeling the squeeze. Evans notes in the last few years, it's been harder to get people who have gone through recovery back into housing. Simply put, there aren't enough affordable units.
We have to hold on to people, in some cases 2 or 3 months longer for placement than we ever have before. So for me, it's a sense of urgency.
That said, once the city proposes plans to actually build in Astoria, the mayor knows there will be blowback. People will fight to keep their views of the river.
And of course, we do have a historic community and we want to preserve our historic character.
Okay, Maggie Vespa joining us now. Now, that per capita homeless rate that put Clatsop County up at the very top in the state, I think that's going to be something that draws a lot of attention. But we should elaborate on that because the definition of homeless here is pretty broad.
Right. Those counts use federal definitions, which actually are really specific. So when you talk about a rate of homelessness or people who are homeless, that can mean someone in a shelter or transitional housing. It can mean someone staying with a friend or family. And it can mean people living on the streets. If you narrow it down to just those on the streets, that's a smaller subcategory called unsheltered. And it's just worth noting because basically it means that this problem, when you refer to a homeless population in a city like Astoria, it's bigger than just the group of people that you see that are living on the streets. And that's why city officials are really hitting the ground running with this.
No like hard building or zoning plans right now?
Not at the moment, no. They say they're going to be working on this over the next year, so we'll keep tabs on it.
Got it. All right, Maggie Vespa, thank you. You lose a lot of things when you go to prison, mostly your freedom, but also your right to vote. Multnomah County's new DA wants to change that.
I think there are concerning racist roots to this law, and there's just no public safety reason to prevent it.
And if you were living here in the Northwest 20 years ago, you might remember this.
Earthquake. That's a serious earthquake.
When the story continues. Hey, I have twins too. Congratulations. What a year, what a first year with twins, unbelievable. Welcome back. Hi, everybody. We are taking a look at some of the memories that you have from a year ago when COVID first arrived here in Oregon. Keep sending them our way. Use that hashtag, #HeyDan. You might have also heard, I hope you've heard, we just launched a Story Weekly newsletter. It's got all the stuff that you might have missed during the week if you can't watch every single night, some of the stuff that we can't fit into the show every night. There's an easy way to subscribe. Use your camera phone, aim it at that QR code on the screen, or maybe you're like, Dan, I don't do QR codes, man. Well, then just go online, kgw.com/newsletter to sign up. Now, this is a talker, and it's something we've been talking a lot about recently. First, getting prisoners vaccinated, which is now happening here in Oregon thanks to a judge's order, but that was controversial. And there's another kind of controversial debate right now over prisoners going on in Salem. See, lawmakers are considering a bill that would allow prisoners to vote while they're in custody. That would set Oregon apart from most of the country by like an overwhelming percentage. In fact, right now, only Vermont, Maine, and Washington, D.C. allow that. Multnomah County's district attorney, Mike Schmidt, testified in support of the bill this week. Now, Schmidt, you probably know this guy already. He ran for DA last year on a very progressive campaign that pushed for criminal justice reform just like this. And on Straight Talk, he told Laurel Porter that this is a no-brainer for him to support. Absolutely. That the research, he says, shows voting encourages rehabilitation in prisons, and people who have the right to vote are less likely to commit future crimes. And he had this to say as an answer to people who think that felons give up the right to vote when they commit a crime.
When we sentence people into a courtroom after a crime, what you'll hear a judge talk about is how much time they're going to spend in prison. I've never heard anybody talk about, and you're going to lose your right to vote. It's not a deterrent to future crime, and it's not really even the punishment. The punishment is your loss of freedom. So why are we doing this collateral consequence? And really, when you look at the roots of why this became a law in many places across our country, and Oregon is no exception, there are very racist, concerning roots around Jim Crow and other laws that prevent people from voting, specifically Black people from voting. So I think there are concerning racist roots to this law. And there's just no public safety reason to prevent it. We're not going to be at any more risk because people vote. And who knows, when they come out, maybe they'll run for office. Maybe they'll participate in our society. And isn't that what we want?
Okay, look, this is controversial. I know you probably have an opinion on it. We're going to be talking a lot more about all of the stuff he just kind of brought up there when we take a look back at the history of voting rights, how they have evolved, the policies aimed at taking them away over the years. I fell down a bit of a rabbit hole on this topic this week. It's very complex, it is fascinating, and it is vital to what we want to do in this country, how we want, the rights we want people to have. And if you have thoughts on this, please let me know as we form this coverage for next week. Email us at thestory@kgw.com. Message me on Facebook or tweet us, as always, using that hashtag #HeyDan. By the way, Laurel's full interview with the DA, where they talk about a lot more than just the voting rights of prisoners, that airs tonight on Straight Talk at 7 o'clock. So we've been talking about the 1-year anniversary of COVID in Oregon, which is Sunday, but it's also another big anniversary this weekend. The Nisqually earthquake happened on that day 20 years ago in 2001. Now, the epicenter was to the north. It was near Olympia, but you could feel it down here in the Portland area. So let's take a look back now in the KGW vault.
At a Seattle conference, people scramble for the exits. Reporters scurry out a glass door at this press conference.
Diabetes Association.
And at this Seattle City Council meeting, the quake paralyzes some people.
Not the best way to handle an earthquake.
We asked this emergency management expert to point out those who reacted well.
Like right here is ducking down and using the chairs to protect his head.
And people whose reactions increased their risk of getting hurt.
They moved towards the open glass, which is a very dangerous area.
Instead of diving under a big desk, a handful of these reporters ran outside, one of the worst choices they could make.
You have no idea, what's out there and what could be falling off.
These people racing for the exits also put themselves in even more danger, exposing their heads to falling lights and ceiling tiles.
What you want to do there is get down between the rows of seats and actually just stay down between the chairs.
Even some Portland City Council members just sat, frozen, bewildered by all the shaking.
Attention everyone, please. We should go into our earthquake drill.
At Tigard High, students ducked under their desks. A good move, all except for the guy who took these pictures. A guy who brushed off the danger, saying he'd lived it before.
I'm from California. Give me a break.
It's interesting. I've never been in what I call a real earthquake, like a 6 and above. I always wondered what. I don't want to find out, to be honest, how I react. But you know, geez, if you remember that earthquake, let me know. Use the hashtag #HeyDan. I know you guys love history, and I love to hear your takes on it. So let's stay on the topic of history. Let's go back even further, before the KGW Vault even existed, and take a look at one of the lesser-known members of Lewis and Clark's expedition. We're going to do that when we finish the story next. What's the name of the cafe? What's the place? When it opens back up, maybe it's open right now. Swing through, get some to go. Welcome back. So, hey, do you remember when a bunch of statues were getting pulled down last year around Portland? I'm sure you do. Yeah, it was during the thick of the protests and the riots. Well, someone just put up a new one in Mount Tabor with a pretty interesting history. So we sent John Goodwin to get a better look.
Months after the Harvey Scott statue was toppled at Mount Tabor, a new bust mysteriously appeared in its place this weekend.
So a statue of York was put up over the weekend by parties unknown. Our opinion is anytime people are talking about history, it's a good thing.
Kerry Timchuk is executive director of the Oregon Historical Society. He's interested by this new statue and offers some historical significance.
So who was York? York was, of course, a member of the Lewis and Clark expedition to Corps of Discovery. He was a slave, had been William Clark's manservant. His father before him was a slave to Clark's father.
York was also the first African American to cross North America and reach the Pacific coast. Timchuk says his presence was invaluable to the expedition.
And he was given the duties on their return trip as their supplies were dwindling. He was given the duty of trading with the indigenous people to make sure that they had enough provisions to allow them, frankly, to survive. Of course, there were those who really wanted to downplay his contributions. You base it on the journals, on the stories that were told back then, and you could see that he was an integral part of the expedition, no doubt about it.
Right now, Portland Parks and Rec has no plans to take it down, saying it's an important piece of art reflecting the history and contributions of people of color in our community.
It certainly took an entire team. I mean, it wasn't just Lewis and Clark on their own. It was York, it was Sacagawea, and it was the entire Corps of Discovery that came with them. It took the old saying, of course, it takes a village. It took a lot of people to make the Lewis and Clark expedition happen. We're all part of the solution. We're all part of the team, just as they were back in the days of Lewis and Clark.
In Portland, John Goodwin, KGW News.
People keep telling me there are flashing lights back here. Whoa, right there! I've been looking for it this whole time. Finally, it went out. We should just change all these. I think we have. Maybe there's a short. You got any electricians in the crowd? Come on, check us out. Help. So one quick question before we go tonight. David Scotch, I hope I pronounced that right, said, "Hey Dan, I'm in line to get the shot at the end of March. Do I register on the news site now or do I wait?" You're going to wait. So wait until it is your turn. Once it is formally your turn, then you can register to have somebody get a hold of you. But right now, it's flooded with people, as you know, if you've been watching our coverage. So everybody's going to have to be patient. Look, it's the weekend. Let's all namaste. Take a breath. Let's all have a good weekend. I'll see you back here on Monday. Let's be refreshed, happy, do our best to stay sane. In the meantime, have a good one.